Okay, so today we're going to go over some of the accessibility features that might be found on your PC. Mac looks a little bit different, so we're mostly just going to be going over a PC format today. Also, I apologize for my voice. I've been really sick, so I have terrible allergies, but gotta do what you gotta do. So first thing, you're just going to go right over to the Windows box and you're going to select on the settings little gear. And there are actually a lot of different accessibility options found in the other places around here, especially with personalization, languages, some of the way that you set up your system, including the sound, how you get notifications. But mostly we're going to focus on the ease of access section. And so right away you can see how this would be something that might be helpful for you, especially if eyesight is a problem. It's really easy to increase the size of your display. And this little box will pop up when that happens to just let you know if you zoom in on things and they're blurry, it can kind of fix that for you. But I'm just going to hit cancel. And so you might have noticed though, that does cut you off from some things that you saw on the other side of the screen. And so it's nice though that they just try to make everything fit really easily on the screen, which I think is why, especially with pages that are already formatted from Windows, it doesn't look very much different. But as that little box came up, you can see how zooming in on something like a website that may not be as compatible could make it a little blurrier. So we're going to go back just to make it a little bit easier for me. I do use 125. Some people prefer even smaller. But for me and my reading disabilities and things, it makes it a lot easier for me to use it at this level. Another area that really helps a lot of people is changing the brightness. And so you may be thinking, like, why would you really want it to be dimmed? Actually, I get migraines frequently, and so being able to control the brightness of my screen is a huge thing for me. If I kept it at a constant level that most people want it at, even like 100%, it can be very difficult for me to focus when I'm looking at the screen. And so I usually have it a little bit lower than like halfway. And then these ones as well make things a little bit easier, especially for reading and for looking at the symbols and being able to see them. This is a transparency button, so you can see when it's off, there's a little bit more of a contrast down here. And if you have other modules open that are Windows boxes, it would do the same thing around your screen. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and keep the transparency on as well. And then one of the areas that I find crucial for me is to look at the additional display settings and specifically the color settings. And this is something that's really interesting. So I have dyslexia, and for everyone that means different things really. Dyslexia can vary on what the way that you actually read and see letters and numbers is going to be a little bit different. And for me, I have found that using app modes in the dark actually makes my reading easier. It's almost like inverting the colors, but it doesn't change the whole inversion for your entire computer. I'll show you what inversion looks like a little bit later, which may be helpful for some. And there's also settings as well for those with color blindness. And then there are, as you can see over here, high contrast settings. And so that means that it is going to give you the option to block things out even more. And so you can see how for someone with sight issues, this would be really helpful. Alright, so I'm just going to keep this like this because like I said, it really helps me to be able to see it this way. It doesn't change very much, it's really just the color. And then another area that can be helpful is just this cursor size, because when you're trying to look around for this little guy over here, it can be difficult to find on the screen sometimes. And so making him a little bit bigger can increase the ease of access for some people. Ironically, it kind of messes up with my vision, so I can't do it for very long. It makes it hard for me to follow it. But it's also the color of it. So you can see like how I prefer the inversion. Sometimes this can be better for some people. And then this one, it almost depends on what you're selecting. You see how it kind of goes through things and disappears almost. All right. And just to focus more on the ones that would primarily be beneficial for you as students, the narrator is one that I find very helpful. Sometimes you're given lengthy, reading assignments and things that can be a little bit overwhelming. If you're trying to navigate a page and you don't quite understand as you're reading it, it can be very helpful to hear what you're actually reading instead, or while you're doing it. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the narrator on.
Settings window. Use narrator. On. Use narrator to read and interact with your device. Toggle switch.
And so you can see he kind of follows what he can.
Choose when to start narrator. Uncheck start narrator after sign-in checkbox. Unchecked.
Yeah, he can kind of follow along with me where my mouse is going, what I'm clicking. It's not perfect, as you can tell, he just went all the way up to the top of the screen. But it is really helpful to be able to like go through things, like I said, if it's a word you don't understand and you're reading it. And then if you want him to stop, I just hit the control button. And so that's something that's really nice as well, is it only has to go as long, and if he starts reading something you don't want him to read, it's very easy to control him. And something that's additionally helpful, I only have 50% hearing in my right ear. And interestingly enough, it affects the way that I hear pitches. And so I have a hard time hearing higher pitched voices. But lower pitched voices are much easier for me to hear. And so you can see at the beginning, I had him all the way down here in case I wanted to use him. I'm going to go ahead and turn him off so that I don't have to talk over him. And then we're just going to go down to these bottom area. And so, of course, pretty much all computers have device volume options that you can change. There's another one that gives you an option to do mono audio. And this might be kind of interesting, but it essentially, when you are listening to music, for example, on your computer or with some good headphones, your computer can do like dual audio. And so you'll be able to hear it almost as if like if you're at a concert and the drum is on the right hand side and the bass is on the left hand side, you can hear those two things on the proper sides. With mono audio, it combines those channels into one channel. I prefer to turn this off because it does change how I hear music on my laptop. And I'm a little picky about that because that's something I do a lot, that it can be helpful for someone that's kind of overwhelming for. And so hearing those distinctive sounds can be a little bit too much for someone, and so it's kind of nice to use the mono audio. I've used it with a friend of mine before, and she suffers with some autism spectrum symptoms, and so it's really helpful for her actually, which I find very interesting. And then closed captions is another option, and so they kind of just go right in the middle of the screen, but it's when you're listening to audio, they can actually turn that on for you, which I think is very helpful because not everything that you're going to be using on the computer, or if you're listening to music, or if you're watching a video that hasn't been captioned yet, it's kind of nice to know that your computer does have the capability to at least try to present it for you in written format. And then the last area that we're going to go over is the speech and keyboard settings. And so you can talk instead of type. You can use the dictation mode on your laptops in order to make texting or like entering text a little bit easier. For my computer, I have Cortana, and so I don't typically turn her on, but I can use her if I want to. And so you can see when you do click on turn on speech recognition, this little box comes up. And so this basically, just like it says, allows you to control your computer by voice. And so for me, I would just be using a array microphone because that's what's built into my laptop. And so it can help you. You can see it's registering what I'm doing, and that way it can pull it up. And so it has you read the sample sentence. Peter dictates to his computer. He prefers it to typing and particularly prefers it to a pen and paper. And it knows when I stopped. And so one of the things that I find interesting is just that you can give it opportunities to choose when it's actually going to listen to you and when it's going to not listen to you. And so as it says, there's like document review. And so I'm just going to disable that one. It's not something that I'm going to use. And then a manual activation mode, or you can use voice activation. And so if I click on this now, I'll go back in and change this later, but I can tell my computer when to start listening. And And so we are going to go ahead and try something real quick. So as it says up here, it's starting speech recognition. And so it's sleeping because I haven't told it those magic words for it to go ahead and listen to me. And so this worked earlier. I'm really hoping that it works now for you guys. But we're going to pull it up real quick. And we're just going to add a sticky note. Start listening. Type. It thought I said laying apparently, but that's okay. And you do have to give it a little bit of time, because as you can see, it's not picking up on my voice super well. And sometimes it's really funny to use, but there are several different settings that you can get into. We're going to go ahead and close this. Stop listening. Stop listening. There we go. All right, and I'm going to close that for you. All right, but there are several different options that you can choose. You can change how you're going to talk to it. You can get more information on the dictation. There are additional speech settings that you can use as well. And then the last one is just the keyboard. And so this is just something that I find helpful because of the fact that I do have a touch screen. It's just that I can turn on the on-screen keyboard anytime. And the reason why this might be helpful for some is that it is a little bit larger and it makes the actual movement of typing a little bit easier. And so if for some reason, let's just say that I had a hard time controlling my hands, or my actual digital dexterity was pretty low, it would be really helpful for me to be able to use this, because all I have to do is slide my finger around just like the normal cursor. All right, well, that is that. I hope that this was helpful for you, that you're able to see some of the accessibility features that are options on your laptop, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.